Look at this one. Yeah, it has the liner note in Japanese and base on top, Paul Chambers. What about this one? Yes, one of the popular titles of Freddie Hubbard, Blue Spirits. It has the OB, in Japanese, of course. But these are not the Japanese pressings, the US pressings, RBG. Hi, this is Takashino from Jazz Blues Japan. Yeah, as I said, today I just want to talk about the Blue Note history, or rather, I should say, Blue Note reissue and also the releases here in Japan. I've already talked about the Blue Note reissue history here in Japan many times, but I just want to add something little more information about that history. And as I showed you, at the beginning, we have got a bunch of Blue Note reissues. Like I showed you, this is the Freddie Hubbard Blue Spirits, and bass on top, Paul Chambers. Yes, bass on top, Paul Chambers. And as I said, even if the bass on top has the liner note in Japanese, and Blue Spirits with the OB, these are the US pressings, and the same as these two albums. I have the others. I got a bunch this time. What about this one? This is the Eric Dolphy Out to Lunch, and this is the Liberty pressing, blue white Liberty label, RBG, Van Gelder copy, and it has the liner note, the same as the bass on top, yeah, Out to Lunch, liner note. And About Soul, Jackie McLean, yes, it has the OB, but this one is a Liberty pressing, blue white Liberty label, RBG. And this one, Kenny Burrell, Blue Lights, volume, I think 2, volume 1. Yes, it has the OB, but again, this is the US pressing, blue white label, Liberty. So, going back to the history of Blue Note releases or the reissues here in Japan, in the 70s, Toshiba EMI started releasing and reissuing the Blue Note titles with this serial called NR, NR series in the early 70s. But before the 70s, in the 60s, I think Blue Note never gave the license to press Blue Note titles outside of US. So that's why Toshiba EMI, I think they were trying to approach Blue Note at that time in the 60s to reissue those great titles on Blue Note, because at that time in the 60s, even the 50s, jazz was very popular here in Japan. But because of the licensing issue, Toshiba EMI at that time was not able to reissue those titles here in Japan. But what they did is to negotiate with them, Blue Note, at that time. I think it was a time of transition in the US. Blue Note was bought by the Liberty at that time, right? In the, I think 1967, around that time. And that's the time that Toshiba EMI negotiated with them to import, not to reissue here in Japan, import those US pressings and sell here in Japan. So that's what they did. And those are the titles that I showed you right now are those albums, which were imported from the US to Japan and sold here in Japan through Toshiba EMI. So that's what they did. Yeah, that was in the 60s. I think starting from 67, yes, up to the, I think in the mid 70s, until they gave up the license to the King Record. And at that time, in the 70s, Toshiba EMI simultaneously reissued Blue Note titles like NR series and LNJ series, right? In the 70s, and at the same time they imported those US pressings, Liberty pressings, not Blue Note ink. At that time there was no license at that time. So Liberty and also UA, blue black tone or blue white tone label until the mid 70s. So that's what they did. And at the same time, as I said, Toshiba EMI did reissue some of the titles with NR series and LNJ series. So that's the history. And it is funny that when the license was transferred from the Toshiba EMI to the King Record in the mid 70s, King Record never did that. Never did import the US pressings from the US to Japan and sell them here in Japan. No, King Record never did that. Only they reissued the titles here in Japan. Yeah, that's what they did. And I think some of you guys, because I got a question from some buyers saying that when they see the OB like this, yes, OB like this, they think this is not the US pressing. Yeah, this is not the US pressing. So that's what they think. And I told them that even if these albums have OB and sometimes liner notes, these are the US pressings, not the Japanese pressings, because Toshiba EMI at that time in the 60s and the 70s, they imported these albums from the US and put these OB, because they are the distributor at that time, so that's what they did, and that's what I told those buyers about these pressings. But sometimes the buyers from outside Japan get confused because of this OB and because of the liner notes. They think that this is the Japanese pressing, not the US pressing, even if it is RBG. But it's not that. They are the US pressings, but they were imported from the US to Japan here and sold here in Japan. Yeah, so that's another story of Blue Note reissues and also the Blue Note releases here in Japan. Yes, and there is another thing, although I don't have the sample, but in the late 60s, it is funny that Toshiba EMI did reissue the Blue Note titles with EP, the single records, donut records, what you call, right? 45 RPM singles, just few titles, like Heartbreaky, Morning, and Cannonball Adderley, Autumn Leaves, and some other, I forgot, and some other, popular titles at that time. Yeah, in the late 60s. I think it was in 1968, 69, around that time, before they got the full license to reissue the Blue Note full albums, I think, in the 70s. So they started selling just EPs, Yeah, that's another story. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you like it. Anyway, those, histories. Sometimes fun to know, right, as a jazz collector. And yeah, I tell you the truth, I'm also learning, new things. So I hope you guys are also having fun to know these new things, right? Okay, lastly, I will keep praying, wishing you guys, family members, co-workers, everybody to be safe in this unusual situation. Please continue staying safe, and thanks for watching today, and always remember that we are connected with the music we love, jazz. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.